Hey, wonderful people. Here we go with values part 3, the light and the dark. So by now you have your beliefs, which are kind of likened to the map. You know, kind of that's the terrain of your life, like what you believe. Like literally everything you believe shapes your ideas about life, and it informs your ideas about life, and that becomes really the map. But in order to navigate, in order to get anywhere, we need our compass, and that's the role that the values serve, right? So your values are your compass, and then your values that really get divided into two halves. You've got your internal representation and your external representation. So the external representation is how you want the values to be experienced by others, right? Whereas the values themselves, they're how you want to experience yourself while you're doing things, right? So that's that kind of that difference between the two. So hopefully that's clear by this point anyway. I tend to think of your values as being your inner light, and the showing up words as being the outer light, right? So it's that spark that you light inside of yourself. We're kind of there's the core values that kind of light you up, and then the way you show up in the world, kind of lighting others up by the way you kind of appear in their lives, right? That's the showing up words. So values are really about how you want to know yourself, and the showing up words that are the outer light they're kind of how you want others to know you. Not kind of like, they are how you want others to know you. And of course, we don't have control over how others know us, right? We can be showing up with the very, very best of intentions, really within our values, and someone can still look at us and say, well, who does he or she think they are, and what makes them think they're so high and mighty, and all that kind of stuff. We've got no control, but we do have influence. And usually, if we're showing up through our values, I've had this numerous times, I'm sure you have too, really big doubters and people that kind of thought one thing of you, once they got to see you and meet you consistently showing up through your values and realize that you weren't maybe what they thought you might be, their situation with you changed. Other times that doesn't happen, but because of your inner set of values, you can say, well, you know what, I showed up to this person honestly, truthfully. I was actually being my genuine self. They didn't like what they saw. That's cool. And now you don't have to waste your time trying to kind of negotiate with that person or include them in your life, right? That's how I see this, the power of this, because it enables us to stay consistent, stay committed to who we said we would be. So the aim going forward is to measure yourself and your actions by those 6 words. And it is kind of, it really is a case of measuring yourself. Like every conversation, every piece of work you do, every thought process you're having, like you could even be sat here right now and maybe somebody has pissed you off, and in the process of pissing you off in your head, you're spewing and you're like, I'm like really angry at this person. You can at that moment say, well, hold on, is this part of my values? Is this part of my values? Do I have to, like, it's natural to be angry at people, so I'm certainly not saying to swallow your emotions. You should have every emotion. But I very often become aware that, okay, I've gone past the useful kind of part of having the emotion and being pissed off at the person, and now I'm actually outside of my values. And very often what you'll find is it's the being outside of your values that's the most harmful part to you, not what the other person did or didn't do, right? Likewise, I can be in every conversation that I'm in, and I can walk away from that conversation and say, did I show up powerfully, courageously, compassionately in that conversation? Or did I show up, kind of, like for me, powerful means having kind of, having influence, right? Being influential. The opposite of that for me then is being, trying to be like convincing. As opposed to being influential, I start to try and convince and persuade people. So, did I show up in that conversation trying to convince and persuade? Or did I show up with a strong degree of influence? Did I show up compassionately? Or did I show up so strongly opinionated that people kind of got a different feeling about me, right? So this is how we get to practically measure ourselves using our own words. So instead of the world measuring us, we can say, well, you know what, like in every situation, you may not like who I am, you might not like what I stand for, you might not believe in the things that I do, but actually by my own criteria that I decided in absence of you, I decided for myself, by myself, that these are the ways I'm going to measure myself in life. And by those measures, I actually feel good about how I showed up here. So it's a real shame that you don't feel the same, but hey ho, right? And you can move on and get back to your grounded place. So, for me, kind of my values are truth, joy, and love. So am I approaching this truthfully? I can tell you, in the past, I've been well, I have been a liar. I think, like all of us, we've been liars. But I was a terrible, I guess you could say, braggart or hype. You know, kind of. I fell in with all kinds of people that thought hype was a normal kind of way to have conversations. Particularly if you go to internet marketing events and you go into a lot of these big seminars and there's loads of people. Instead of it being like, oh well, I did this and I added £10,000 or dollars to my bottom line or whatever, you'd hype out because you're in such big company and you go, oh, I made 20, right? And you realize that, well, why am I doing that? Why am I changing myself? So now I'm very much aware. And one of the ways in which I address my value of truthfulness is that as I catch myself wanting to hype something, or if I do actually hype it, because I'm not beyond it still at times, if I do catch myself doing that, I will actually call myself out at the time and I'll say, you know what? I don't know why I just said to you I made 20,000 on that. I actually made 10. And what I found is that by calling myself out on my diversions from my values, started to make me think really, really hard and long about whether I was going to compromise them or not. Because I knew I was going to call myself out to people, but I knew, like if I call myself out and now I have to say this to people over and over and over again, that actually, no, I lied, no, I lied, no, I lied. I knew that it would put an end to it, and it actually did. So I'm a hell of a, I wouldn't say I'm 100% truthful. I think at times each of us we bend the truth to suit our own purposes, but it's what I aspire to, and that's what's really important here. This is really what I'm working toward, right? Being truthful all the time. Am I approaching this joyfully? And again, I'm not always approaching things joyfully. I'm same as anyone else. I get really, really grumpy. I get angry. I get annoyed. Sometimes I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and it's the actual piece of work that I put down, and it becomes a chore. And I realize that whenever I'm doing work, when it becomes a chore, it's not my best work. It's not the work that I really want to represent me in the world. And so I'll often press the pause button and go away and actually do what I can to get back to a joyful place whilst doing the work. I don't mean like plastic smiles and happy clappy. I mean, can I approach this work? Can I get to the point where I say, other things in my day are going shittily at the moment. That's a real word. Other things in my day are going shittily, but it doesn't mean that I can't approach the work, this one specific project or product that I'm working on right now. It doesn't mean I can't approach this joyfully. I can go back to being pissy and whiny about the other stuff as soon as I get this done, but the work is going to get done joyfully. Am I approaching it lovingly? And for me, love is acceptance, connection, and care, as per the neuroscience. And again, am I approaching it in that way? Am I accepting it or them or myself? Am I doing it in a true connecting way? Is there care being put into this? Am I approaching it lovingly? And likewise, from the showing upwards, am I showing up powerfully, right? And again, or is it am I showing up, in a way that is really persuasive and stuff? Are people experiencing me compassionately, and are they experiencing me courageously? So you get the point, right? Again, these are things that I can use as tools in flow right now. Like if you and I were in a conversation together, I'd be able to say stop in my mind, like as we're having the conversation. Show me in the last couple of minutes during this conversation, where have I been courageous? Where have I spoke from my heart? Okay, where am I demonstrating compassion here? Am I demonstrating, my idea about what power is? Great, right? And I can measure that as an ongoing thing, and that's really the intention here. These aren't just a bunch of throwaway words, right? So it's vital that you understand that they're not kind of abstract one and done thoughts, right? They're intended as an actual practical tool for measuring your intention, right? When you write these down, that's your intention for how you want to be versus the action. Did I do what I said I'd do? Did I show up the way I said I'd show up, right? And it's really important to understand that you will not be on value all the time. You will kind of diverge. You will, if we want to call it that, you will make mistakes. It's not so much mistakes, right? You'll be dragged away from it, or you'll walk away from them, or you'll have an emotional outburst or something that will absolutely, definitely not be in keeping with the person that you said you would be, right? Absolutely, definitely. It's not a case of might. So what's really important to understand then is that values are aspirational. They're who we want to experience ourselves as being, right? And they're the compass that guides us back on track when we're losing our way. When you have had that outburst, when you have said something rude or arrogant or aggressive, or you've done something that is counter, it's not the opportunity to sit there and give yourself crap about it. It's the very, very first thing is, given what I chose myself to be, given how I chose, am I doing that? Okay, no. before I try and figure out why the other stuff happened, let me just get myself back on value. And maybe that means closing your mouth and not saying any more words because you're seething. So maybe your values might be like when I can't speak the untainted truth, or if my truth is going to land like a sledgehammer in someone's face because I'm angry and I've lost part of my brain processing, I'll actually say to them, we can't have this conversation right now. I'm too emotionally charged, which is the truth. It's also a compassionate thing, right? It's also trying to do this in a loving way. So I would say we are not having this conversation right now. I'm willing to have it with you later when I get myself back to the person I know I am, and I will actually say that. Okay, so I just want you to kind of understand and experience this, that it's not the idea that that you have to give yourself crap for not being on value the whole time. Okay, likewise with you showing up words. I came out of that situation and I wasn't powerful, courageous, compassionate. Well, later on, then I can say, well, what was it? Where did I lose my way with that? Where did I start being other things? At what point? If I was to go back into that room now and continue the conversation, what would I do differently? And that's how we start to learn. Well, where did I go off track? Where did I stop using the values as my compass and go in a different direction? And if I was to go back into that room or back into that situation, how would I do it differently next time? And that's all that matters. Not the giving yourself crap that you dropped off. So please, I know I'm belaboring this point, but it is that important. When I first started teaching values to people, they held it as such a huge thing, this massive ideal, that they gave themselves a hell of a lot of crap every time they were off them. I know, I've let myself down, I'm such a terrible person, I can't even keep to my own values. Don't do that to yourself, right? Learn from them, use them as a guide, get back on track. I think I said in one of the other videos, like very rarely do soldiers navigate a course with the compass out. Maybe if it's pitch black in the middle of the night and we're trying to get to a cache where we've like buried stuff underground to provide more ammunition or whatever to the soldiers. Maybe we're doing that. We're literally marching on a compass bearing. But most of the time, soldiers pull out their compass, they look at where they're going, they put the compass away. And it's only usually when they fear that they're getting lost that they pull the compass back out again. That's what values are designed to be used as, right? Something to bring you back on course. So, as they're now, like as your values are right now, they're already very, very valuable. Excuse the pun, right? But they're already valuable. But to make them even more so, we're going to go from that kind of fantasy land to a functionally powerful land, right? We need to break them by bringing the dark, just like we have in previous exercises. So it's exactly the same as with the 5 Bs and with the roles exercises. We're going to return to your new values and you're showing upwards, and we're going to break them by bringing in the dark in order to see where they might be compromised or cause you to stray from what you've committed to. Excuse me. So once again, doesn't have to be a long or extensive assignment. You already know how your values are being brought to the dark because you're living this life already. Like you already know that you want to be a certain way, and yet things in life tend to drag you off, or you lose your way. You already know these things. So it doesn't have to be this kind of huge kind of navel-gazing exercise. You like answer from the top of your head first, and then go a little bit deeper. But I think you're already going to know. Like whenever I've tried to show up this way before, I tend to lose my way because of this, and just write down whatever those things are, right? So once again, think about this as like the drama that's going to show up alongside of that value or that showing upward, and then the data that you're going to use to replace it, right? I can't do this because, but I can if I do these things. Right? I'm gonna do. If that shows up in my life and I get emotionally triggered, here's how I can still live the value. I can actually, like Dax did, I can refuse to have the conversation at that moment in time, but promise that I will come back to it when I can show up maturely and within my values, right? So plan that out. So important. Once again, it's the IADs, right? The immediate action drills. I know for a fact that these values and these showing up words are going to be challenged. Let me plan for those challenges. So then create your plan for how you're going to address the darkness when it happens, what you're going to need to remember, what you're going to need to remind yourself, what you're going to need to tell yourself at those times, right? Plan it out. Then take the same approach with adding more light to each value. I'm going to say adding more light to each value. Like what could you do proactively with each value every day? Like, and you can think about that almost through your 5 Bs or your 3 Es, right? How could I bring my value of truth into my 5 Bs, right? Well, maybe that's going to be through really honest journaling every day, right? or it might be it might be through conversations that you have with loved ones and things like that. So think about how you can proactively bring your showing up words and your values into the practical elements of your life. How can you create more energy, engagement, enthusiasm, and have the 5Bs even more powerful because you've merged them with your values? Okay. So what could you start doing in order to reinforce and remember and to proactively use the values? And that's it, right? It's simple. So it's not a difficult process. And by now you're going to see, like, this has been a process you've gone through several times, and it's going to be a process that we go through with every module of this program, where we have an idea, but then we test the idea. We don't just leave it to chance that, oh, right, I get that intellectually. We test it and we plan for it not going right. And when you're going to love this when it comes down into the business parts, when you're thinking about what most people call marketing and I think of as messaging. When we get to the messaging parts, you'll understand, like, well, what if this isn't working and that's not working? Where's it likely to go wrong? And it's going to be a really powerful process. So that's your job in this exercise. I hope it makes sense to you. Once again, if you've got any questions about it, don't sit in the dark. Ask them straight away, and let's gain some momentum. Take care.